to another edition, guys. I am Thomas. Today we are traveling into the Bronx. True crime story about the Out of Social Club. Tragedy, to say the least, that rocked the New York City area a couple of years ago. So this was the Happy Land Social Club. It was a fire that happened. Case of arson, mass murder. And the fire was the deadliest in New York City since the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, which I actually did a video on that too. It's somewhere on my channel here. Just do a search. And coincidentally, it occurred on the same day in 1911. And it was also the deadliest in American territory since the DuPont Plaza Hotel fire in Puerto Rico in 1986 and the Weinkauf Hotel fire in 1946. So this was a pretty big incident here in New York. It happened March 25th of 1990. 36 years ago, if my math is mathing correctly. This is on Southern Boulevard, 1959. Southern Boulevard, if you ever want to come look at the location. There was a memorial right across the street or right down the block. It's not hard to find. I'm just passing through. I'll show you the where the social club was. And this is actually in the West Farms section of the Bronx. Most of the victims here were Hondurans, and they were celebrating Carnival at the time. It's just and I still remember this story to this day. Very, 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 very sad story. It's actually, in case you're trying to find, thinking of logistics wise where this is, this would be near, relatively close to the Bronx Zoo here as we are making our way. So to give you guys further background of this incident, the perpetrator was Julio Gonzalez, a man by that individual by that name, Julio Gonzalez. He served 3 years in prison in Cuba during the 1970s for desertation, from the Cuban army. In 1980, he had faked a criminal record as a drug dealer to help him gain passage in a Mariel boat lift. The boat lift had landed in Florida. He then traveled to Wisconsin and Arkansas and eventually settled in New York, sponsored by the American Council for Nationalities in Manhattan, if I'm reading this information correctly. Key thing to know about this: 6 weeks before the fire, he had split up with his girlfriend, Lydia Feliciano. Before that, Gonzalez had lost his job at a lamp factory in Queens. At the time of the fire, he was 2 weeks behind on the rent of his room. And the owner of the boarding house from where he was staying at said of him, "From what I know, he was down to really his last hope." As far as what I understand of the building of where the actual, Happy Land Social Club was, but right before the blaze, the Happy Land was ordered to close, apparently for building code violations in November of '88. And the violations included lack of fire exits, alarms, or sprinkler systems, and apparently no follow-up by the fire department was documented. So that's all, the information that I gathered that's up there. Obviously, take it, for what it's worth. As far as the incident, the evening of the fire, Gonzalez, remember, he was the boyfriend. He had argued with his former girlfriend, Feliciano, who was a coat check worker at the Happy Land Social Club. And he was urging her to quit. Now, apparently, based on records, she said that she had enough of him and did not want anything to do with him anymore. He was then in Gonzalez. He was then ejected by the bouncer at around 3 a.m. And apparently he have been heard to scream drunken threats to shut this place down. So he was inebriated, had alcohol. He was saying, all right, that, he just got broken up with his girlfriend, or, who he had interest in. And she said, want anything to do with him? And he's like, all right, that he's going to shut this place down. He also reportedly shouted, I'll be back. And now Feliciano apparently tried to warn others, and she was worried that Gonzalez was going to do something. Now Gonzalez, he went to an Amco gas station. He then returned to the establishment with a plastic container, which at that point was worth just $1 worth of gasoline. $1. He spread the fire at the base of a staircase, the only access to the club, and then ignited the gasoline. 87 people had died in the resulting fire. And there you see below, you see what was the aftermath of the fire. And you can see very small place, so imagine just how crowded it would get, especially for a special occasion, what they were celebrating in Carnival again. 19 bodies were found downstairs. The others were found upstairs. 6 bodies were found apparently within several feet of the front door. Some of those trapped punched a hole through a wall to an adjoining Union Hall in an attempt to escape. Unfortunately, most of the deaths were from asphyxiation or trampling. Mad panic, everyone trying to get out. The club had filled with toxic smoke so quickly that some of the victims were found with drinks still in hand. 150 firemen responded to the blaze, which was extinguished apparently in 5 minutes. Now, initial reports indicated that only 3 people survived the blaze, but later reports gave the number of survivors as 5 or 6. And among them were Feliciano, the club owner's wife, and a disc jockey by the name of Ruben Valadares. Now, after the fire, Gonzalez had returned home, and Gonzalez had removed his gasoline-soaked clothes, and he fell asleep. Tired, bored, fell asleep. He was arrested the following afternoon after police investigators interviewed Feliciano and had learned of the previous night's argument. Now, once advised of his rights, he admitted to starting the blaze. Gonzalez was charged with 174 counts of murder, 2 for each victim, and was found guilty on 87 counts of arson and 87 counts of murder, August 19 of 1991. And this is the current, what was the location of the Happy Land Social Club. As you can see, it's very small, not big at all. Not big at all. And, give it up for New York City, and I say it in a sarcastic voice. He received a maximum sentence of 25 years to life. And guess what? Do you think he was eligible for parole? If you said yes, ding, 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 you have won a circle, a prize. If I had a prize, you have won. That's great New York State for you. He was eligible for parole during March of 2015, as New York law states that the sentences for multiple murders occurring during one act must be served concurrently rather than consecutively. Now, unfortunately for Mr. Gonzalez, he was denied parole in March of 2015, which we just said, but he would have been eligible again to apply for parole in November of 2016, but he died of a heart attack while in prison September 13th, 2016, at the age of 61. Really hard to find any form of sorrow for these type of individuals. Now, although the Bronx District Attorney said they were not criminally responsible, the New York City Corporation Council had filed misdemeanor charges against the building's owners and the primary leaseholder. These charges claim that the owner and landlord were responsible for the building code violations caused by their tenant. Now, they had both pleaded guilty, and I believe they had to perform community service and paid $150,000 towards a community center in the Bronx. There was a $5 billion lawsuit that was filed by the victims and their families against the owner, landlord, and some building material manufacturers down the road. That suit was settled in July of 1995 for $15.8 million, or it came down to $163,000 per victim. The lesser amount was due mostly due to unrelated financial difficulties of the landlord. Just a very tragic story. I remember this story, as a kid growing up here in the city as it was played back then. Man, just horrifying just thinking about it. One way in, one way out of the club. There was a ton of people there. None of these people, they were there to have a good time, and one sociopath ruined everyone's life that was in there. Just a sad story. Rest in peace to all the victims. Again, this is the Happy Land Social Club fire that happened on Southern Boulevard in the Bronx, New York. I hope all is well. I am Thomas. I bid you adieu. In the words of the great Adam DeWoo, rest in peace to a legend. The vlog is over.